Hello, I'm Jody Wolf, and you're watching Expoz, November 18, 2012, about 52 minutes after midnight, Birmingham, Alabama. Topic: the next several minutes you hear is going to be hell on earth. And what I'm going to tell you is just what I said. It is beyond anything that most of you can comprehend. Personally, I cannot comprehend it. I can't have sympathy with it, meaning I kind of know what it's like. I don't. And no one can empathize because no one's been there. To empathize, you have to have been part of it or through something similar. The point is, it's hard to imagine how bad it was. But it was bad when the angels were kicked out of heaven along with Satan. They left their first estate. And they came. And 200 angels saw women on earth and said, wow. Apparently, angels can have sex. And apparently, angels took the form of man. The angels came to earth, and each of the 200 angels that fell made a pact with each other. And them and those who they were in charge over came down. Each of the 200 was probably in charge of thousands. So there were a lot of people on earth. Some say 7 billion died at the flood, and some say from the time of the flood till today, there's been a total of 40 billion people on earth. I've always wondered that myself. But back to the point, when these angels came down and mated with women, and some did mate with men, they didn't get anything, but point is, women had babies. These babies grew into be giants. They were called Nephilim. And I'm going to go ahead and skip way over a lot of it and say that the Nephilim were destroyed in the flood. But the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim still remains. They're here. They're in people. Remember the 2,000 that were in this man that God told, he said, who's your name? He said, I am Legion, I am many. God told him, said, get out of this man, and you go into those swine. And they did. And then he told the swine to jump into the water, and they did, and they drowned. So the demonic spirits left them, and they're still here. But what the angels taught men on earth that men didn't know, they taught them how to find and smelt gold, copper, tin, iron, all kinds of metals, and they taught them to make things. They taught them how to grow things. They taught them a lot of good along with the bad, and we use those things today. Men had that knowledge that came from the fallen angels. I obviously won't do this in one blog. So the thing that happened on earth, though, are the offspring that caused the flood, grew to be giants. The Bible says some were as big as cedars. Now, if you go back and look and see what the Bible says in the days before the flood, the air was just right. The oxygen content was far more better than it is today. Health was not an issue. Everybody had great health. So men were healthy, women were healthy, things grew bigger. Little plants that we may see as say a little cedar type Christmas tree looking thing. The cedars in those days were 150 feet high. Some people say that the angels, the offspring of the angels, were as tall as some of the cedars. We don't know how big they were, but we do know for a fact some did exceed 36 feet in height because they found those skeletons. They did horrible things, and what these giants were doing, the world was running out of food, so they started eating cattle, people. Yes, people. And they said that they were known to run down the buffalo, run them down and grab them up and eat them alive. A lot of bad things happened. Not only did they teach men how to smelt, fine as smelt gold, fine as smelt copper and iron, and how to blend metals to make a stronger metal, they also taught men how to crossbreed things. They started the crossbreeding process. If you remember, God said in his creation, let the animal produce the same in his own likeness. Rabbits were supposed to mate with rabbits, cows with cows, horses with horses, grasshoppers to grasshoppers. They never intended for a man to mate with a horse, centaurus, or whatever the name is. It did happen. They were real. These things that Romans had in their day of these animals with different heads or bodies of animals with a man's body below, they were real. They were taught, and they created these things by messing with the DNA and the genes and so forth, and they taught men that. Well, this got out of hand. This got really bad, and the world knew not sin. Only these angels, until the time they came down. Cain killed Abel, but he didn't know it was a sin. He felt something like, well, this isn't right, maybe, but he didn't know sin. They didn't know sin here. Adam and Eve didn't know sin. They took the apple, but even after they were ejected from the garden, they still didn't basically know sin. They didn't know really what was all right and all wrong. They just knew what God told them not to do. And so the sin came from Satan. And then, of course, the hordes of the fallen angels when they came here to earth. And that started something that never got finished. And this is going to be my whole point. They started something that they didn't get to finish. And they're mad. And they're going to finish it. And they're going to finish it during the last 7 years of the tribulation, the last 7 years of life on earth. This is why it gets so chaotic. It has already started. To prove some of my points, there have been, I know you hear the tale about fairies, but there have been fairies found. There have been these Montauk monsters that actually did escape from, I can't think of the island outside of New York. They escaped. They were not animals that they were crossbred. And there were a number of them. They even found man crossbred with something that made him look like what we call today an alien. This is a fact. Aliens have perfected themselves to the DNA today. They walk among you and work with you, and you don't know them. I'm going to end it. Go to part 2. Jody Wolf, Expoz.